You're watching BBC News. Let's start with that breaking story from the American state of Virginia. A senior Republican, the US House Majority Whip, Steve Scalise, has been shot and wounded while practicing baseball in Alexandria. A number of other people, up to 5 people we understand, have been injured in what witnesses have described as a fusillade of shots early on Wednesday. On the line from the baseball park in Alexandria where the shooting happened is Anthony Zerka. Anthony, I think there's just been a police press conference. What do we understand happened?
As far as we can understand, about an hour and 45 minutes, about 7:15 in the morning local time, a single gunman with a rifle fired about 50 to 100 shots at a group of Republican congressmen and their staff who were practicing for the congressional baseball game. It's a Democrats versus Republican baseball game that was set to take place in Washington, D.C. tomorrow night. Now, one of the people who was injured was Republican member of Congress Steve Scalise, who's the third-ranking Republican in the House of Representatives. He's a congressman from Louisiana. I just saw another congressman walk by here a few minutes ago, Representative Joe Barton, who's the manager of the team. And I asked him what happened. He said, we were shot out. And I asked him what he thought of that. And he said that he thought that Steve Scalise's security team, because he's a member of the leadership, he has a security team that follows him around where he goes. He said that security team saved their lives. He said he saw 2 people hit by shots and that he choked back tears and got onto the bus heading, I assume, back to the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah.
The suspect is reportedly in custody.
Yeah, and I'm just reading the latest reports also, according to the Republican Representative Mo Brooks, Scalise shot in the hip, but he hasn't been fatally injured, and Mo Brooks used his belt as a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. I mean, it's very difficult to say quite what the motivation is at the moment on this, Anthony, but this guy obviously was targeting Republicans, knowing where they were going to be.
Right. There were mixed reports about whether the gunman asked who the people were, whether they were Republicans or Democrats. That's just one media outlet reporting that. But yeah, I mean, this was pretty clearly a gathering of politicians, and Democrats were also practicing today, but they were practicing in a different location. According to Sean Spicer, who's the press secretary for the White House, of course, he said that President Donald Trump and the Vice President Mike Pence have both been made aware of this incident and that they are keeping updated on the news. Yeah,
I'm just reading also the Republican Senator Rand Paul was there and witness to the attack as well.
Right. The report I heard from one interview was that he was in the batting cage getting ready to take some bats, and Steve Scalise was on second base, which is kind of the middle of the infield when he was shot, and Mo Brooks, who is the witness, the member of Congress you talked about, he was on third base and saw all of this happen. And apparently Rand Paul also repeated what Joe Barton told me, Congressman Joe Barton, which was that the security team that was there with Steve Scalise was instrumental in apprehending the gunman. Although we also heard reports that some of the security team or some of Capitol Hill police were among those who were injured.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing that 5 people in total injured. Can you break those numbers down for us? Obviously Steve Scalise, but do you think his security detail were involved as well?
Yeah, from the reports I've heard so far, Steve Scalise was the only member of Congress who was injured. There was a congressional staffer. All of these members of Congress travel with their staff, particularly for something like this. And then 3 members of the security detail, whether that was Scalise's personal detail or members of the Capitol Hill police, I don't know. All
right, so Anthony, as we're just talking, we're looking at live pictures of, ambulances and police vans there. Presumably a considerable security presence still there, given this only happened, a couple of hours ago now.
I can look around and I see police vehicles everywhere. I see members of local Alexandria police, some carrying assault rifles. The whole area is cordoned off by police tape. There's ambulances and fire trucks blocking the road. I had to walk about 2 blocks to get within the security perimeter. So this entire area is on lockdown. You can see members of Congress staffers who were here. They were milling around. Just when I got here, and some of them left just after I arrived on the scene.
I mean, for many of us in Europe, and actually speaking for a lot of people in the United States as well, this will raise questions about gun laws. Where you are now in Virginia, laws vary from state to state. I seem to remember that in Virginia you can actually can carry a concealed weapon. Is anyone discussing that at the moment?
No, I think it's much too early to have discussions about any sort of responsibility of gun laws or the implications of gun violence. Although I did see one reporter mention that she was on her way to a congressional hearing this morning about whether to deregulate firearm silencers, and now that hearing has been canceled.
But just looking back, I mean, the fact that such a senior member of the Republican Party, House Majority Whip, has been shot, when was the last time such a senior politician was targeted like this?
I can't think of one offhand. There was, of course, a member of Congress from Arizona, a Democrat who was near fatally shot a number of years ago during a campaign event, during a town hall meeting in Arizona. But to think of a senior member of the leadership team of Congress, one on the left or the right, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
All right, Anthony Zerka, just on the scene. Thank you very much.